Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Animal House Radio. And I know it's late for us to be on the air, but when we have special friends that want to drop by, we make exceptions to the rule. Joining us today is to say he was a jack of trades it's not an exaggeration, and he has done it all in the music business. He is the rock and roll warrior, and he has a book out right now, and it's taken it's taken the whole country by storm. It's called Rock and Roll Warrior by Dave Liebert, and he's here to speak with us today. Dave, I thank you for stopping by.
My pleasure, Carl. Happy to be here.
Oh, we're happy. I tell you what, though, I love books like this. These are the kind of things that that I was looking for during the pandemic to keep me occupied. Stuff that will at least hold my interest, because not to knock nobody, but a lot of people say print is dead. But when you see books like that, you're like, well, I don't think so. But I mean, just looking at the title and reading the synopsis, I didn't have a chance to read the book, unfortunately. I'm trying to get John Lappin to send me a copy, but
oh, I'll take care of that. You got it.
Yeah. So, you were a road manager, an artist manager, a musician, a songwriter, record producer, booking agent, and a drug dealer. So, jack of all trades is sort of a fitting title. How do you manage to do all that?
Well, I didn't do it all at once. First, I was a musician. I was in a band called The Happenings, and we had some hit records, and I did that for a few years. And I was also two things at once. I was also managing The Happenings, and started skill set, and I started to realize, maybe there's a future on the other side of the mic for me. I maybe manage other bands. I was pretty sure that I couldn't be a Happening forever.
Right.
So business end, and did a few different jobs, and then one day from Johnny Podell, Alice Cooper's booking agent.
Right.
The Alice Cooper band is looking for a new tour manager. Are you interested? And I got hired, and I didn't think first really. My first impression at that first gig in Atlanta was just a bunch of crazy looking people crawling all over all the giant insects, and I'm saying to myself, my God, what did I get to? I thought I made the biggest mistake of my life, but their manager said, just observe what's going on. It'll be okay. No idea what I was supposed to do.
Right.
But he was right. After a few days, things kind of ceased, and
but why did you think it was a big mistake? What was the apprehension?
I didn't know what I got myself into. The job that I was Rare Earth road manager. Remember Rare Earth?
Oh yeah.
And cushy gig. They only worked weekends, pretty much. And I was living in New York. They lived in the dates from my apartment in New York. And then Thursday night, I'd fly out to Detroit. Go to the gigs, fly out with them and at the end of the weekend. And they were a great bunch of guys. They were fun. The shows were really good. Cushy gig. And then Monday morning, I put them on a plane back to Detroit and to New York. So I gave that up for no. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was going on for that moment that I took the job. But after a few days, I did. It all started to fall into place, and it turned out to be just a fantastic job, and ended up doing that for about 4 years, and
Hmm.
the world and our own big commercial jet, selling out
Nice.
arenas and stadiums.
Yeah.
You know, and I had Shep Gordon as a mentor, and he
Oh
thing
wow.
that I ever learned about the music business, I learned from him. So much so that I was actually able to have a successful career after leaving Alice Cooper. So yeah, pretty well for me.
Wow. Well, yeah, it would seem so, right? So, Dave, let me ask you: when you have a book like Rock and Roll Warrior, and just from the little bit I've read, I am so interested. My interest is piqued, and I'm brimming with curiosity. So, for years, we've been spoon fed behind the scenes with all these bands and the drugs and everything. Yeah, everybody knows what goes on. It's no secret. What's gonna make Rock and Roll Warrior stand out and make those other ones pale in comparison? What is the difference that you feel that your book's gonna have?
Well, first of all, I decided I didn't want to write one of these tell
Tell-alls?
all
Yeah,
balls and tits flying all over the place. I have to say that.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, I didn't want to. I didn't want to write that kind of book. First of all, informative, so that people who were reading it would get like uh, to be backstage with some of these famous people. So to um, I wanted to extend that feeling. I wanted it to be witty, and I wanted it, besides being informative, and I wanted it to sound like me. I wanted it to be. I wanted it to have a certain flow. I wanted it to be this kind of, and then this happened, and then after that, this happened. I wanted it to be more introspective than that. And from the feedback I've got, book, I'm happy to say I think I did accomplish that.
Oh,
The
absolutely. I
review,
didn't even read the book, and I could tell that you definitely accomplished what you were setting out to do.
yeah, it and I wanted people to uh, get the feeling of what it felt like to be in my shoes. Uh,
Right.
I wanted them to feel the camaraderie and the feeling of being family with Alice Cooper. I wanted as far as my association goes, and that takes up a large portion of the book as well. And to get the feel of what that felt like,
Right.
to be at a P Funk concert was what did George say? Ain't no party like a P Funk party. Don't stop. Well, that's true. There's something quite unique about
Yeah.
the fun concert and what that felt like, and getting this funk was going to just shake the building to pieces. It was great. I was very part of that as well.
Oh wow.
And
So
the other people, I wanted to be with them.
yeah, I mean, you have a list here of a who's who of people that you've dealt with, worked for over the years. You got Guns N' Roses, Alice Cooper, The Runaways, Prince. That don't even scratch the surface of everything. But um, out of all the stories that you must have a million stories in you, and I wish I could hear every one of them. But which one do you think? There's got to be one that stands out that would shock the reader the most, or wasn't expected from this person. You expect, sir, like after Motley Crue, The Dirt came out. They knew that was the kind of behavior they can expect. Which one would really shock the reader?
That's a good question. I didn't really shocking things. When you write a book, you have to decide what what belongs in the book and what doesn't. You really have in that regard.
Right, right,
I like I said, I didn't want it to be a tell-all book. I didn't
right.
just throw a bunch of dirt in the book and throw people under the bus. And I think for the most part, I really did say that. I would say the most fun, of course, was Alice Cooper. He's first of all, he's a great guy, and
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
and it was just it really was just a great. And anybody who was associated with him, band, crew, support act, we flew him on our plane. We always had a big plane that we leased for every tour, and one and I would leasing the plane, and one of those planes, a Lockheed Electra, a big 4-engine turbo. I negotiated a bit of myself into the deal. A pilot would give me a flying lesson or two, which really didn't amount to very much other than the plane achieved cruising speed and altitude and was well on its way to the next city. The wheel for a few minutes and steer the plane, all under the watchful eyes, of course, of the. Well, on that particular plane, the support act was Susie Quattro and her band.
Oh wow, I love Susie.
Lovely girl.
Yeah.
But Susie was nervous being on a first place, and she really the offer to have herself and her band and her crew charged from city to city for the entire tour.
Yeah.
But he really didn't bargain for me sitting behind the wheel of this plane. It really, first lesson, I came out of the cockpit and there's Susie waiting for me. And as nice as I'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't fly the plane anymore. And having
That's funny.
Satisfied my curiosity of what it was like to steer a big commercial air, fondness for Susie, because she's really a lovely person. I agreed to become a passenger again on the plane.
There you go. Well, after talking with you for a few minutes, Dave, you're right. It doesn't come off as a tell-all. This is more of an homage to all the people that you've had in your life over the years. That's how I see it now.
Well, if I could be accused of throwing anybody else, it would be George Clinton, and it was almost unavoidable because George is a very, very intelligent, very street smart, and his decision making unique as well. And he was a bit of a druggie, I think. And I remember we were in the studio, and he was recording one of all his drug connections were really on his case. They hadn't been paid, and it got to the point where it was like, pay up or else. So what did he do? Session sheets, as if they were musicians in the recording sessions that he owed them, and George sent the bills to the company accountant. That's how he paid off his drug debts. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. Quite unique.
Wow. That is, that
there's a couple of things. I also was the booking agent for the Runaways, which was a bit, and these were 16-year-old teenage girls who certainly weren't adults, and their notorious manager-producer, Kim, had me book a tour in Japan for them. The night before they were to leave, Mr. Udo from Udo Arts, and by the way, everything was sold out in advance, so Kim Fowley was right. They go for blonde American teenagers. But anyway, Mr. Udo broke in English, Carl. He says, Mr. David, man. Yeah, what's that, Mr. Udo? Mr. David. Girls on stage, girls off stage, wild no. This very important in Japan. I will relay your message in as clear and concise terms as I possibly can. Well, it fell on deaf teenage ears because they left a trail of unpaid bills and a slew of broken-hearted Japanese bulls.
Oh boy. I love it.
It was quite an adventure.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny. You mentioned Alice Cooper. I've been a big fan of his for years, and because the show goes out to American Forces Network, I've been trying for 3 years to get him on the show, and I keep hitting a brick wall. But we did get Dennis Dunaway, and actually Dennis, I'm sure it came out before, but we thought it was a big deal at the time. An historical event a mystery was uncovered. The whole chicken thing. Dennis admitted in the interview, he goes, "Oh, we brought the chicken," which I don't think ever came out before, but that was a big deal. But Dennis was a sweetheart of a guy. But Alice Cooper would definitely be somebody I would love to speak to, and I know our men and women overseas would love to hear from him. But you know how it goes with publicists.
I don't have much sway in making that happen, but I'll mention it to management. I'll tell them what a fun time I had. Perhaps
I would be grateful for that. I know you don't have no control over
no
that.
promises,
I'm just talking to talk.
You know. Yeah.
So you had the Runaways leaving a trail of unpaid bills and all these broken hearts, and you know what I found? That Prince was always an enigma to me. And I'm sure he was just like deep down inside just a very nice guy, but he seemed troubled. What was it like working with him?
It wasn't. I'll tell you that. I spent a little time with him because I managed Sheila E. for a while,
right?
And she was the same tour, and so I became part. And every was videotaped, and what Prince would do is he would invite a few people back to watch the video with him, and he would comment on that, and that was cool. He was tweaking his show, like fine tuning it to perfection.
Right.
A guy like Prince to live, everything is thought out well in advance, and so. And I remember after the first show, Sheila said, "David, Prince would like you to join us to watch the video." And I said to my, "Wow, I went over there, and there was maybe 10 or 12 people in the room all watching." Now, Alice Cooper was a lot of fun. He was just a fun guy, with a great sense of humor. Prince isn't anything at all like that. He's not like a fun guy to have, and he's sort of low keyed, and
he seemed like he was always very serious.
Always very serious. He, I guess he felt didn't. Alice ruled out of love. Everybody that worked for him never wanted to let him down, and that's why everybody worked so hard on it. Alice Cooper didn't want to let him down. They didn't want to disappoint him, and he relied on a lot of people. Effects on stage, it was all part of the show. So my job actually was to make it was a run like a well-oiled machine, and it was. Prince ruled out of fear. I don't know if it was because he was rather native in stature or maybe something from his child. I don't know, but
Yeah.
around eggshells when it came to Prince. And he
Yeah,
could
I
be
get
pretty.
it. I could
He
see
wasn't,
that.
he wasn't looking to bend over backwards to be a nice,
Oh wow.
to say that he was rather nice to me. And they could have been because than the other people in his circle. And also, he idolized George. And, he knew of my association with George, and I guess he didn't want to come off me. I mean, he did know the difference. He just, I'm amazed that Prince even cared, but apparently he did. So
Oh
I can't
wow.
complain about Prince, although he wasn't really a lot of fun. I also want to say that um, after that first night of hanging out in his, I got Sheila, and I'm saying to myself, do I have to do this every night? You know, my dad. And the third night when she called, I said, Sheila, I'm not going to. Minutes later, I get a call from Prince. Hey, Dave, come on down, join the party. And I knew after a show after that, and I think Prince respected that. He realized I I wanted that to be my decision, not his. Sending invitation to go to the room anytime I wanted, which I
Right,
did
right, right.
occasionally, just not.
Yeah, I see.
Uh,
You know what? I mean, I get it. I could see just, and I have no inside information just from what you were telling me. I just, from my perception of what I saw of Prince, I mean, I totally get it. I totally see that, and I don't even have to be on the inside. Um, I'm impressed.
he wasn't a bad guy.
No, I know.
He was
Yeah,
okay. You know, awkward. Uh, he wasn't comfortable in social situations. Would play golf with Perry Como and be on Hollywood squares. Prince activities like the plague, and you know there are certain that are superstars where the only place where they really feel is playing in front of 30,000 people standing on. This is one of those people.
right, right. No,
Um,
absolutely. So, Dave, let me ask you: for the person who has no idea who any of these people are, which I can't say that they wouldn't. If you're reading this book, you're a fan of music, you know all about these artists and all the people that you're talking about. Now, for somebody who picks up Rock and Roll Warrior, what is the one thing, if anything, that like from the people that are part of the core audience that love all this music and the people who are experiencing it for the first time right now, what is the one thing that you hope as the author that they take from that book? What is the one, I mean, besides enjoying the reading of it, is there a message in there?
and I'm not sure there is, but I, I suppose there are a couple of messages. If you're an aspiring musician and you wanted to see what it was like, or to be on the other side of the mic, I think what you get, it can be wonderful, it can be cruel. It's just another ups and downs on steroids, I suppose, if you want to look at it.
Yeah,
For the
right.
aspiring musician, I suppose, reading about all of these people, and I guess go after your dreams. If you want, go for it. It's the only way it's going to happen, if it's going to
Right,
happen at all.
right. It's not
Be
going to come to you,
uh,
yeah.
um, just if you I do. If you just have to succeed, you have this rage deep down inside. Most of these people I write about in the book had, you will probably succeed. Focus and that driven. So don't give up on your dreams, folks.
Absolutely.
For it, and you just might be successful in achieving those dreams. Let's face it,
I
Carl. What's the most important thing in life? I would say to be glad you're alive,
Right.
to be enjoying life. And so what you about what is going to make you happy? For me, it was a no-brainer. It was a career in the music business. I pretty early in life, so I knew what I wanted. I just had to figure out what, and I guess
Right.
is the that is the lesson in the book.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like a roadmap for the aspiring musicians to like say, "Hey, this is what it's like. Be prepared." You know, we had a couple of musicians on, and they said something that was pretty cool when I asked them about like advice that would be given out. They said, "In this business, and even acting, any kind of entertainment uh, medium, you have to be prepared for praise and rejection."
It's it's first of all dedicated because the odds aren't really in your favor if you want to succeed in the music business.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and there's going to be a lot of distractions and a lot of failure. I suppose you have to believe in yourself and overcome those kinds of things. You need that kind of tenacity to the
Yeah.
low points. And believe me, there's going to be low points. Even for these huge, there are low points. And how they handle it
Well, that's the whole thing.
is
Some
going to
people
spell
can't.
out what
Yeah.
their future is going to be. The big
Absolutely.
rock stars destroy themselves in the process because they can't handle
Yeah.
taking a fall from the stratosphere. They're tough business.
Yeah,
Look, I
it
don't
is. It's
have any hair on my head.
yeah, that's from stress.
Maybe if George Clinton, I'd have a big bushy head of hair. I don't know.
Yeah, it's all that stress. But Dave, the '60s, the '70s, the '80s, the music scene. How has it how has it changed compared from then to now? Like, what is the big difference that you see? Obviously, there's still stuff that goes on behind the scenes. I don't think it's to the extreme that it was, but what is the major difference you see in the music industry now? I mean, just from my perception, it's totally ironic, and I mention this all the time. Years ago, um, you used to a band used to have to sell records to get a tour. Now you have to tour to sell records. It's like flip
It's
flopped.
a completely different universe, Carl. Look, um, records have become not irrelevant, but that's how we sort of measure success during the 60s, 70s, the golden years of rock and roll. Kids don't buy CDs anymore, non-existent. Is that a bad thing? I guess it depends on your perspective of it all. I mean, you got to ask you, why would a kid purchase a CD when all he has to do is subscribe to Apple Music or Amazon, and literally ask Siri or Alexa for virtually ever been recorded, ask for any band, ask for any genre.
Yeah.
Why would for $10 a month? Why would anybody go out and buy a CD under those circumstances? I have Apple Music in my car. I have Amazon Music in my house, and I do that. The Siri, hey Siri, play.
Yeah, I guess you change with the
the
times.
Eagles
Yeah.
or whatever. Is that a bad thing? It's different. It's a different way to those, but it's understandable why people don't buy CDs today.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
For me, growing up in the '80s and the '70s, the whole experience of buying that vinyl or that
Of
CD and
course,
having it in my hands, it wasn't just music. It was something that I could cherish. Like I still have original vinyl from the '80s, from Guns N' Roses,
yeah,
and
yeah, and more than that, it also told people about us. Election told people what we were about. It it was a reflection of who we were in our collection. That's
Exactly.
gone. People don't own music anymore. Is that a bad?
You can tell a lot about somebody from their collection of records and what they keep in the refrigerator.
Yeah, exactly. But nothing stays the same. Certainly not in the music industry.
Yeah.
Look, when I started out, and then there were cassettes, and before that there were 8-tracks.
8-tracks, yeah.
So it's constantly evolving. It's never going to evolve. Too. Do I like the music of today? Well, some of it, no. But I suppose as it's up and they attach themselves to different forms of music, to that music, even though I may not like it, it's obviously relevant. It's right. That music.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about that. I'm like, yeah, like some of this stuff I don't understand how it gets put out, and then other stuff is like, oh, that wasn't too bad. But here's my thing, Dave. When I grew up in the 70s, I think my first album was I bought AC/DC's Highway to Hell, but I liked Black Sabbath. I liked Blue Oyster Cult. As a matter of fact, I had Albert and Joe on the show. Great people. And here's a testament to the music I grew up with. And I love the fact that the younger generation is listening to it. But I pride myself on being part of that core audience that was there. It's like when somebody who saw the Honeymooners first run. You know what I'm saying? That's a special bond that they have. But I like when I go to like a Def Leppard concert or a Foreigner concert and I see 5 generations of people in the audience. People who have no way could have grown up with that music, but they were exposed to it at some point and they're there.
It's I think there are certain somehow or other have retained relevance, and I think part because they're really, really good at what it is that they do, and great songs. I think the song is probably the most important element of really, and if you wrote great songs and you're really good at if you do well in all of those different areas, I guess you can stay and continue to stay famous and play to each new generation. Now there aren't a lot of bands, but there's a very few. You just
there's some still hanging around. Yeah. Hey, Dave, let me ask you. Now you said you were a musician, that you were with the Happenings. So, when did you find your first love of music? How old were you? How young were you actually? And who was your influence? Take out the people that you got to work with. Was there influences before those people that got you that where you found your love of music?
I found my love of music at a very young age. My attorney by trade played the violin, and he could play any melody of any song by ear. And my parents recognized that same ability. So I would routinely have little sessions with boards, the piano, and him with his violin. And they asked me, my parents pressure me, but they said, would you be interested? Maybe it'd be kind of cool to maybe develop your. And I said, yeah, I agreed. But they said, here, you can't quit until we say so. This can't be a whim. And I was forced 8 years because I wasn't allowed to quit. And then finally my father passed away, and I stood up to my mother. Else is outside playing basketball, having fun. I'm tethered to a keyboard. I've had 8 years under my belt of training, the education that enabled me to have a career in music. I grew up in Paterson, New Jersey, a stone's throw from New York.
Oh, wow. I grew up in Newark.
Okay. Rutsla, you know
We're
about Rutsla.
neighbors, yeah.
And I used to hang out with who liked to harmonize. We used to listen to doo-wop groups, the Diablos, the Paragons, the Jesters, and we used to hang out in the parking lot of this we frequented and hang out in the parking lot and chirp. Not because we were thinking about a career in music. It just seemed like a great way to meet girls. And but we started to get pretty good at it, and we said we harmonize as well, if not better, than almost all of these groups. We should take a more serious look at it.
Oh, wow.
And that's when streets of Tin Pan Alley in New York, which for people who don't know, it's a secondway that houses a lot of buildings, which in turn house a lot of music companies, music publishing companies, record companies, production companies, management companies. A music publishing firm, I would walk into their office. I told them I was a songwriter, in a band, production company. I was in a group. Finally, I walked into the offices of a company, a company owned by another singing group called the Tokens.
Oh, yeah.
They had a couple of enormous hits. The Lion Sleeps Tonight. Tonight I Fell in Love. Also producers. They produced the Chiffons and Randy and the Rainbows. And,
Wow. That was one of my favorite songs, Denise.
Oh, Denise,
You're talking to a Sicilian from Newark. You used to have guys. I mean, I could never carry a tune, but we used to have this guy. His name was Angelo Basilone. He used to harmonize on the corner, and then there was another guy named Artie Gower, and he had this like deep bass. And it was, I was impressed, Dave, that you mentioned the Paragons and the Jesters, the Capris, the Tokens, Jimmy Beaumont
right.
and the Skyliners. Oh my God,
And
there's
then
never be music like that again.
And then when I started to take it more seriously, I started to, of course, we listened to the Beach Boys and the Four Seasons. They were also listened to groups like the High Lows, the Four Freshmen, Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross, the Double Six of Paris. These are groups that were very amazing groups, and that's sort of had a tremendous influence. The style of harmonizing that the Happenings are, and I was the vocal arranger, having a musical background, listening to all those the doo-wop groups and these more sophisticated bands, Letterman, had a tremendous influence on what the Happenings sounded like. That was so you knew guys that hung out on the corner and harmonized
yeah,
too.
that's how we used to go. That was our radio at night, those guys. And you want to know what the biggest surprise was? I was out in L.A. Oh God, it's got to be a while. Well over 15 years ago. And I was at the Rainbow Room and I ran into Lemmy. I was a big fan of Lemmy.
The Rainbow, my haunt, my favorite.
Yeah.
Haunt.
And I got to speak with him, and he was sitting there playing his poker machines, just a regular guy. And I probably, he probably got asked this 100 times, but I asked him, who was his influence growing up? And he gave me this answer that I did not expect. He was a huge, huge fan of Little Richard. And you would think a guy like Lemmy, because of the music that he sung, that wouldn't be an answer. But if you think about it, when he was growing up, that's who was out. That's who was playing.
It kind of makes sense to me. And by the way, I considered Lemmy, who was in the Rainbow, every world's most accessible rock star.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? One of the things I did when I hung out, if there was a piano in the lobby of the hotel or backstage, or we went to a party afterwards, one of his favorite pastimes, me sitting at the piano, him with a drink in his hand, leaning against that piano and belting, The Lady is a Tramp, or I Left My Heart when I played the piano.
Wow.
or as he called it, when he did his Tony, what's his name, impersonation. I left my heart into Tony. Geez, I can't remember his name. But he loved to do that. Belt out these old standards.
Yeah, no, that was cool. You wouldn't expect that, but that had to be surreal.
No. Can you imagine what Hornet rock fans would think if they knew that that's what he loved to do?
Yeah, you know. So, Dave, I see that you have a website. It's called rockandrollwarrior.com. Is that where people, if they want the book, they can get a book, they can get an autographed copy as well? They can purchase?
Rockandrollwarrior.com. If you purchase the book through there, I have arranged, will personally sign a copy for book through rockandrollwarrior.com. And I mean, the book is available everywhere, of course, everywhere. But yes, autograph rockandrollwarrior.com. I'll be happy to
Absolutely.
personally sign a copy for you.
Absolutely. Now, I'm looking at your background and I'm impressed. Give me some examples of what some of them gold records are behind you.
Well, let's see. These two are the happenings.
Okay.
See in September, and I got Rhythm. That one right there is a multi-platinum Guns N' Roses, the one that got away, and that's I talk about that story. And the rest are Alice Cooper, Boosie's Rubber Band, Vanilla, George Clinton.
Which one is your, out of all those records up there, Dave, which one is like the most dearest to you? I mean, I know they're all probably special in their own way, but
the two happenings, because I had more to do with that.
Right, that you were actually in the band.
I was either the manager, the booking agent, the tour manager. Those I was the artist. Those are the two I was actually the artist. And let's hope I don't have to smell someday, you know. They look
don't worry about it. We'll
wall.
make sure that never happens. But I it was a real pleasure talking to you. I can't wait to get the book, and I'm definitely going to check it out. I encourage everybody to go to rockandrollwarrior.com, Amazon, wherever you buy your books. Check it out. And it's a great read. And right now we could use all the great reads we can get, especially what's going on in the country. You have some downtime. I highly recommend it. And I just want to, and I know all our men and women overseas, they're going to definitely enjoy it once they start ordering it. It's a perfect Christmas gift for somebody who's a rock and roll fan. You can't get any better than that because the story's in there. And just the way Dave talks, I could tell it's going to be an interesting read. And Dave, I just want to let you know on behalf of our men and women overseas who unfortunately are not going to be able to make it home for Christmas this year with your families, I wanted to thank you for the years of entertainment and for putting out this book. On behalf of them, I thank you for your entertainment value that you provide them.
And I want to wish everybody, all the men and women in the armed service, I have a wonderful holiday, and I want you to know that all of us really, God bless you. And Carl, thank you for having me. It's been kind of it's good to be able to talk about a lot. It's somebody who's so ingrained into the whole rock and roll.
Yeah, I'm rock and roll all the way.
You are.
I mean, I go back to Elvis. I was a big Elvis fan, and I don't care what anybody says. He was the king of rock and roll. He paved the way for a lot of people. So, and I just want you to know that you have an open door. Anytime you want to come on, whatever you got, promote. Is there another book in the works, or this is it for now?
Well, I think this is it for now, and I'm not supposed to. They're talking movie.
Ooh, okay.
And I guess it makes sense, although I'm not supposed to talk about it because
I don't know nothing. I'm a Sicilian.
All right. Well, David Keith. He's a very good friend of ours and a gentleman with Richard Gere and Brubaker and all of that. He and yeah, I said, yeah, you know what, you'd be perfect. Good
Oh wow.
typecasting, David. So yeah, there's people interested in
Wow.
turning
Well,
this
I
thing
hope
into a
that comes
movie.
to fruition. I really do.
Me
Well, Dave, thank you for your time, and I want to. You and your family have a safe holiday, a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, however you celebrate. I say Merry Christmas, so if you get offended, I
No,
apologize.
of course not.
And
I
then hopefully
celebrate.
we'll meet again in the new year.
Thanks a lot, Carl.
Thank you. All right, everybody, real quick before we get out of here, it's rockandrollwarrior.com by Dave Labert. Go check it out. Show him some love. Buy the book, either there or on Amazon. I highly recommend it, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. On behalf of us all here, we'll see you Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time with Tommy Chong, and we might just get Cheech involved. So I want to thank you all, and we'll see you right here next time on Animal House Radio via American Forces Network. Have a great night.